Everyone knows the iconic story. Three typical average kids inside a haunted mansion, just by chance freed a ghost that made them Beetleborgs. Big Bad Beetleborgs was released in 1996 behind the release of Power Rangers Zeo, the continuation of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and the 10-episode miniseries Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers, also known as Season 3.5. Big Bad Beetleborgs was an iconic staple of the Saban era of tokusatsu and would recreate the Juko B-Fighter franchise released by Toei in Japan. This series would be well received by younger audiences and would fall into the likes of multiple other franchises such as Power Rangers, VR Troopers, and Masked Rider. Big Bad Beetleborgs would spawn a sequel adapted from its Japanese counterpart known as B-Fighter Kabuto. That series would be called Beetleborgs Metallics. In many ways, the Japanese series would have various crossovers, one with O-Ranger and various other metal heroes such as Jans Person and Blue SWAT. The American audience wouldn't get a proper crossover save for a comic book released in 1997, where Metallics was pit against Power Rangers Turbo. Like many of Saban products of the time, Beetleborgs would follow the same fate as VR Troopers and Masked Rider, where footage would run short. Adding insult to injury, these franchises would rely heavily on toy sales to keep production going. Masked Rider would run one season and then become ultimately forgotten, with no known console releases, but would however find a home through Tiger Electronics as a handheld LCD game. Masked Rider would also receive comics released in the UK under Marvel Comics and Phoenix Press. VR Troopers would prove to be the most successful of the three, receiving 8 games, 2 of which were console releases on the Sega Genesis and Sega Game Gear. It would receive 3 cartridge-based games on the Micro Wizard handheld, a Micro Wizard pinball handheld, a Tiger LCD handheld titled When Worlds Collide, and released on the Tiger R-Zone as an exclusive title. VR Troopers would also continue on to receive a variety of card games, a board game, as well as a series of comics released under Marvel Comics in the US and under Phoenix Press in the UK, respectively. B-Fighter, the Japanese counterpart of what we in America would know as Beetleborgs, would receive a brief manga, but in the US, Beetleborgs would receive 2 standalone comics released under Acclaim, but these would be released underneath the Power Rangers IP, with most fans remembering and documenting the Power Rangers Turbo vs. Beetleborgs Metallics book. They would also receive 3 comic books released under the now defunct Deviaire Publishing and several comics released by Phoenix Press. Beetleborgs, however, would never receive a video game release, as during the mid-1990s, Power Rangers sales were at an all-time high and Hayao Saban favored the franchise within the gaming market. We would receive a series of handheld games and console releases on the Super Nintendo and Game Boy during the life of Beetleborgs. So with all this information floating about, what video game did Beetleborgs receive, if any at all? Truth be told, they didn't receive a video game license, but in the same year of Beetleborgs Metallics, B-Fighter Kabuto would have its release on the last console supported by Sega. No, not the Sega Dreamcast, but instead, the Sega Pico, which was an edutainment console supported in Japan until 2004, 3 years after the shutdown of the ill-fated Sega Dreamcast. To some, a console considered to be the world's most underappreciated console of all time. In B-Fighter Kabuto, the story follows 3 new heroes that continue the tradition after the original B-Fighters from Juko B-Fighter have left. The game, however, featured on the Sega Pico, features a series of minigames and a card collection mechanic that makes the game itself worth playing even by today's standards. At this time, I would like to give a special shout out to my friend Mari, also known as Rendal Yamaranger, from Japan. If not for her help in translating the manual, as you'll see throughout this video, I would not have been able to make this video possible. You can find the PDF of this rule booklet in the description below. Arigato, Mari-san. For those unfamiliar with what the Sega Pico was, it was designed with some Sega Genesis hardware in mind, using the same chipsets, but with additional features that would make it separate from the Genesis. The Pico was also designed with children in mind, and its bulky laptop design reflects this, as you can see here. The Sega Pico featured squishy buttons, a durable pen, and a selection of cartridges that featured turnable pages, also known as storyware, that would interact with the sensors found within the holes at the top of the board. When these are covered up, it tells the cartridge what page you are on, and using the sensor built into the pen will tell you where the pen touches, the pages being an illusion and the sensor doing all the extra work for you. The Sega Pico was a revolutionary edutainment console of the time and would be succeeded by the Sega Bina in 2005. Any information on its discontinuation has been limited, although it has not seen a release since 2011. In B-Fighter Kabuto, you play a series of minigames to collect tokens that can be later used in 3 additional minigames for your chance to win cards. These cards are distributed through a series of sessions, each containing 8 cards. Once those 8 cards are acquired, you're given a new set of cards to collect, the objective of course being that you collect all the cards available. Among the type of games that you'll be playing, you'll have the following, shown in no particular order. Game 1 tasks you to shoot as many of the evil Mezard progeny as possible to reach an ultimate score before the timer runs out. But make a goal to not hurt your fellow B-fighters and your trusty friend Guru. Take out your enemies fast enough and you'll earn plenty of tokens to unlock new cards. In Game 2, you'll have to bash through barriers as quickly as possible to fight evil Magnivore bugs. This game randomizes the battle vehicle that you get to play as. Gameplay is fairly straightforward. I'll see myself out. In the third mini-game, you'll have to be careful as you connect fuses to fix the power supply on your damaged battle vehicles. Succeed at doing so and earn more tokens. In Game 4, you have to destroy the evil bugs and make your vehicle dock at the battle base. Perhaps the most immersive of the games, but by no means difficult. Game 5 is Pachinko, where the goal is simple. You have to get your balls to land in the highest number to achieve the highest score, but are not faulted if you get to the lowest score. Your enemies on the bottom are set to deflect the balls into the opposite directions, ruining some of your high scores. Game 6 is probably the hardest due to how the pin functions. The game is a first-person perspective where you're blasting enemy bugs. Careful to block their attacks, or they'll deal damage to you as well. Lastly, there's the game where you and your comrades are on multiple floors and must stop the enemy from reaching any of your B-fighters. Tapping the trackpad with your pen in specific places will keep you safe from the enemy. Make it to your battle bikes and you're off to the races. As mentioned before, when you collect tokens, you'll need to spend them to unlock other cards to advance into the next segment. You can see the cards you've collected by tapping here on the last page. Throughout the game, you'll be greeted by larger monsters who, if defeated, have the opportunity to give you super rare cards only obtainable by besting them. Remember to also be wary of your tokens as you'll need to spend your tokens to play more games. Run out of tokens, and it's game over. Overall, B-Fighter Kabuto for the Sega Pico is a charming children's game with little narrative but fun activities for your little kids. It's strange that we never got an official Beetleborg game in the US, but as a tokusatsu fan and gaming collector, I've been honored to have gotten my hands on this. This is perhaps one of the rarest Sega Pico games out there. It was succeeded by a spiritual successor series and game under the title B-Robu Kabutok, and would be the beginning of the end for the Metal Heroes franchise. The Metal Heroes franchise was discontinued in 1998 and has since then not been rebooted, despite a Space Sheriff Gavin film in 2010 and some crossovers in Power Rangers where the suits have been repurposed. So what do you think of this video? Do you think Beetleborgs deserved more attention or received the video game treatment? Drop a comment below, as I'd like to hear your opinions, and remember to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel, as the only way that I can better my content is to have your support. I've been Kaz Denizon, and thanks for watching.